Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching from, and welcome to our Migration Center webinar today on June the 4th. Today's topic is document classification and metadata enrichment with the auto classification module for Migration Center. Before we start, let me do a quick slide of housekeeping. Please note that all attendees are muted during the whole session. Should you have any questions, inquiries, or any other remarks, please take a look at your GoToWebinar panel and enter them either into the chat box or the questions box. Please also note that this webinar is being recorded, and once it's been processed, we will share it with you via email. Okay, so who are the speakers today? First up, we have Florian Piasce-Kensen, Director of FME Products. He will take care of the first part of this webinar, the slide deck to be exactly. And after that, we will see a live demonstration from Johannes Gire, our artificial intelligence expert, who will do the demo as I just mentioned before. Okay, with this, I would like to hand over to our first speaker, which is Florian.
Yeah, hello everyone, also from my side. So today, as Mark mentioned, so I will guide you through the slide deck. And before we start with the topic, I will just give you a short, brief history about artificial intelligence, just to start up this session. So, and the whole journey starts with the science fiction movie, as you probably know, The Wizard of Oz, in the first half of the 20th century. So, and that was the time where, for the very first time, the concept of artificially intelligent robots was born. So in the 50s, a couple of scientists, mathematicians, and philosophers addressed this concept of artificial intelligence a very first time in a more or less scientific context. So between 1957 and 1974, machine learning algorithm improved, and people got better to knowing which algorithm applies to these problems. And in the 80s, AI was boosted by the expansion of the algorithm toolkit, but also because of the available funds. So if you look through the Japanese government, for example, who really heavily funded such projects with more than $400 million to, let's say, improve, for example, technologies like artificial intelligence. So during the 90s and 2000s, many of the landmark goals of artificial intelligence has been reached. So 1997, as you probably also know, the Grandmaster of Chess, Garry Kasparov, was defeated by the IBM Deep Blue. And this was a chess-playing computer program. And this result was a really huge step for the artificial intelligence making or decision-making programs. And today, yeah, we all know that we live in the world of big data, which has, let's say, the capacity to collect a huge sum of information and the necessary technology to process this huge amount of information. So, and also AI applications are used successfully in several industries and allowed us to solve many different problems. But the question today is, for this webinar, how could AI affect the migration or the content migration process in the future? But before we went through that topic, I will just quickly introduce Migration Center to all of you who never heard about our product. I will keep it really short, just to give you an idea what Migration Center is about. So Migration Center addresses a lot of different use cases. So in general, so Migration Center was released with the very first version back in 2005. So we are now a long time on the market, and we increased our portfolio of features and capabilities over this period. So in general, we address more or less 7 areas of use cases, or 6 areas of use cases, to be honest. So the first area is the classic migration use cases, like migrating legacy ECM applications to the latest version, or onboard on-prem content to a cloud ECM system, for example. But also, we're helping customers to consolidate repositories or technologies. So, for example, you have Documentum, for example, in place, and you run several different repositories. It might be a good idea to consolidate all those repositories to just 2 or 3 different repositories to reduce the TUC. That means reduce the maintenance and support for these different repositories. So another use case or another area we address is the extend area. So that means we're also helping customers with our product to extend the ECM application within the enterprise. We can do that by, for example, onboarding file shares to an ECM application, but also to get rid of legacy or third-party products. So then also we help customers to replace different technologies, even like file share, but also other systems or really outdated systems like really old Documentum versions or really old SharePoint installations. So all that's also supported by Migration Center. So then also we help customers to archive or decommission ECM applications or ECM content. So we can, for example, decommission email applications, old Lotus Notes databases, and so on and so forth. So, and then we have also a couple of other use cases, like, for example, managing test data or creating test data for ECM applications. So we have also a time schedule batch capability inside our product, which allows you to schedule your migration process. We're also able to publish documents from any kind of ECM application to any kind of, let's say, for example, SharePoint portal or something like that. And also we can reclassify and restructuring content objects within an application or within a repository. That's all the use cases more or less we address. There are probably more, but that's all the use cases which are really common at our customer base. So, and the question is why you should use Migration Center for all those use cases. So first of all, Migration Center is out of the box. It's a real out of the box product, and it comes without any additional programming or scripting effort. It is really a proven technology. We have more than 500 customers around the world and have done thousands of projects. As I mentioned, we are now 13 plus years on the market. So first release was 2005. So, and we're providing more than 140 different migration passes from multiple platforms. So that could be, for example, Documentum to SharePoint, SharePoint to Documentum, Alfresco to SharePoint, SharePoint to Alfresco, etc., etc. So in total, we have more than 140 paths available for you. So then there are also a couple of capabilities which are really important, but I came to that point later on. So, but just to mention one, it's, for example, we can help customers to do a migration or to execute a migration without interrupting the business operations. So that means we can provide a solution for no downtime migration scenarios. There are also a couple of features to, let's say, to transform and map and let's say restructure your metadata, folder structures, access rights, etc. And also our product is fit for regulated or, let's say, sensitive environments. So we have a lot of customers from the life science industry, and those customers have really heavy, let's say, regulations when it comes to let's say critical applications. So we also build a lot of capabilities to manage a large volume of data, and also we have a global service presence. So that means if you need any help in terms of service, we have our FME organization, which is located in the United States, in Central Europe, and in Romania, but also for all other countries around the world, we have a couple of partners available which can help you to implement your migration project. So our pricing is very flexible, and we are also certified by leading ECM vendors. So that's the reason why typically our customers decide for Migration Center when it comes to a complex migration project. So just to give you a short overview about our solution, so Migration Center mainly consists of three main components. That's the Windows client on top, which is more or less the control center for all the migration phases, jobs, processes. So everything which you need to configure or to handle within the migration project, so is implemented in that UI. So that means you don't need any kind of, let's say, XML configuration files or things like that. So everything is really based on a Windows client. So then there is a database in the middle, which includes the business logic, but also all, let's say, performance critical processes. And finally, there is a job server, which mainly contains the, let's say, the export capability. So that means, as we call it, connectors to the different systems, and also the importers to the target systems. So as you can see here on the picture, so we support many different source connectors and target connectors. So for example, we support connectors from source and target for the whole OpenText ECM stack. We also support SharePoint, we support IBM, we support Alfresco, file shares, we have a generic SQL database connector, and many more. So now we look through the capabilities, or to the outstanding capabilities I like to mention. So then first of all, we have a metadata transformation engine which allows you to map and transform your metadata, photo structures, as I mentioned, and access rights, maintain relations, let's say concept like visual documents or component documents, etc., etc. So then migration is fully scalable. So that means it's really made for large volumes. So, and also we implement the capabilities, we call it real-time simulation and tests. So that means whenever you do migration and you use a standard ETL tool or let's say a custom script, so typically you see the results of the migration just at the end. So that means after the import or after you committed the data to the target repository. Within Migration Center, we built a capability which simulates all the transformations you made or you configure within our clients, and you can also test those information or this let's say this transformation and results before you commit the data to the repository. So then migration account comes also with a, let's say, predefined migration approach. So that means there is a phase model within the product implemented. So that means there are always the same steps you need to follow to make a migrate or to get a migration done. So then also we implement a feature called Delta Migration, and this is exactly the feature which allows you to migrate content without any downtime. So that means we can import the first initial big load from a source to a target repository. And during this time, typically your users are, let's say, have the need to still work with the old system and create new versions, changing metadata, let's say, create new documents, etc., etc. And Migration Center is able to detect these changes and integrate these changes into the migration process and upgrade the new target system at the end. So also I mentioned we are fit for regulated systems or sensitive environments. We implemented a couple of, let's say, audit trails or migration audit trails, which provides information about all activities which has been done during the migration. And also we have an open connectivity architecture. So that means we have a framework and a framework and an API available, which allows customers, partners, or the FME professional service organization to build new connectors or change the behavior or capabilities of our existing out-of-the-box connectors. In addition, I'd like to mention a new feature, which is our in-place and upgrade and migration capability. So that's especially available for Documentum and OpenText Content Suite. So in this feature mainly allows you to upgrade your existing repository without moving the data from one to another place. So that means we can just analyze your information within your repository, and then you can build your transformation rules, change the metadata, change the object types, etc., and then upgrade the existing system without, as I mentioned, without moving the physical content to another, let's say, file store, to another repository. And last but not least, and this is the topic of today, our new artificial intelligence capability, or as we say, our auto classification module for Migration Center. Okay, so now let's went back to this initial question on how AI could be used within the migration context. So, and typically, what we learned over the decades of working together with our customers, complex migration can be very painful and expose many of challenges, whether you use a product like Migration Center or not. One of the such challenges refers to the metadata and classification of unstructured content, like, for example, Office or PDF documents. Those metadata are often incomplete or incorrect, or they just simply didn't exist in the source system. So, and to fix this incomplete metadata during a migration process or a project, much more effort is needed, because metadata must be added manually, or external data sources are required to complete this missing information. And most customers shy away from this additional investment during a migration project and choose the simple way of, for example, setting just default values or using some other, let's say, not really valuable scenarios to create some metadata. And this decision has a devastating impact, because documents are typically not migrated with a meaningful context, and therefore the users may not able to find the documents as expected. So with other words, the user acceptance of your new application is very poor from the first day on. And many ECM projects, as we saw, failed because of this missing user acceptance, and the user really don't see any additional value of the new system. So, and to protect your investments made in your ECM application, it's from our side highly recommended to go this extra mile and enhance your unstructured content with really meaningful metadata. And in this point, and this is the idea behind our module, AI come into play. So an AI supported classification process could be really reduce this effort of creating meaningful metadata substantially. So, but before we go into that topic, so let's have a look through the main challenges of using machine learning, let's say, technologies. So typically a process of, let's say, using machine learning starts always with defining metadata. So then followed by the training of the model, of the artificial intelligence algorithm. So, and then you need to validate the quality of this trained algorithm, of this artificial intelligence trained algorithm. And finally, you use this trained model or algorithm to make a decision, or just simply to classify documents. And our customers ask us, but do we really have the representative amount of meaningful training data available today? So, and we believe you do. Because many of you run ECM applications for decades, and over these entire years, users typically create terabytes of manual classified documents in the existing ECM application. So in this classified document is a real treasure chase for a migration project. And our AI auto-classification module is the right technology to dig up this treasure. In other words, with our auto-classification module, you are able to use the existing classified documents in your system to train an algorithm and use that trained algorithm later on during a migration project. So, but how is this, let's say, machine learning capabilities used in the migration context with Migration Center? So FME introduced a couple of capabilities to our product, which allows you to use the existing classified documents as training data, as mentioned, for an AI-based auto-classification process. With a set of features, users are able to extract first the metadata plus the content from an existing ECM application. And with this information, we can train our algorithm and later on use that trained algorithm to classify new content from your source system, classify the content and assign the new classifications or metadata to the objects and migrate the objects to the target ECM system at the end. And this fully automatically. So there's just the steps necessary. So it means extract the data, prepare the training data for the algorithm training, and then use this trained algorithm or this trained model to classify it and assign the metadata. But we will come to that point later on in the demo. And then you can see how it works in live within Migration Center. So, but let's go a little bit deeper into the different phases. So let's start with extracting the classified raw data from an existing application. So for that process, we use, of course, our Migration Center. So we connect to the existing system. It could be, for example, the target system. So and then we extract this information and import those information into our Migration Center auto classification model. And the result is the unstructured content like the Word, Excel, PDF, PowerPoint, whatsoever, unstructured document, plus the existing classification and metadata of each document. So for example, we have a Word document and it's from the type is quote, the company is FME, and the product, the related product is, for example, Migration Center. And you can have, of course, many more attributes if you like. So the next phase by using our auto classification module is to prepare this training data and extract the text and also to compress the information, the information content itself. So that means we have this raw data, and within our module, we will create, let's say, a really let's say valuable set of training data, and we have a couple of capabilities for that available. So first of all, we're supporting hundreds of document file types like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, images, etc., etc. We also have an OCR engine within our module, which also extract, for example, the text from an image or just from an embedded image in a Word document, for example. So, and also we have capabilities to reduce the text and clean up the text. For example, remove the stop words or using regular expressions and so on and so forth. So, and there's another feature which is also based on artificial intelligence technologies, and that's a feature which allows us to, let's say, convert a document, so the content of a document, into a vector, into a numeric vector, which represents the information content. So we use for that doc2vec, which is a neural network technology. Yeah, and if we have this, let's say, this optimized training data set, so we start the training process. So, and currently we support 3 different algorithms within our module. So that's supported vector machine, logistic regression, and naive-based algorithm. So this, you can choose between these 3 algorithms, and the algorithm typically, let's say, are, let's say, useful for different scenarios. And you can play around with that, so and test the let's say the quality of the result, and this is another feature set, and validate the trained algorithm based on a k-fold cross-validation process, which results at the end in a validation or performance report of the trained algorithm. So, but you will see that later on quickly in the demo. So we go to the next phase of, let's say, classify the content. So first of all, of course, again, we use Migration Center. We scan the source system. So it means we're extracting the information from the source system. And later on, we import the document into the target system with Migration Center. That's the nature of the product. So, and during the scan process, the classification has happened. So that means, for example, here in this case, we have a PDF document which comes from the source system, and our classifier service, which is based on your trained algorithm, let's say, return the different, let's say, predicted attribute values or classifications, and a confidence level. So that means our algorithm detect pattern based on unstructured content for a document, and let's say return not just the value, but also the confidence. So that means how confident is the algorithm that, for example, in this case, the PDF is a quote, or the company is FMEAG or the product is Migration Center. So, and you see that in below the value. So, for example, our algorithm in that case says, okay, I'm confident for 93% that this is a quote, and for 92% it's FMEAG, and just for 51% it's related to Migration Center. So, and with this classified object, so that means the content itself plus the predicted values, including the confidence level, you can let's say set up your transformation phase. So that means you can create, for example, an if condition which says, okay, if the confidence level is above 90%, I will trust the trained algorithm and set the attribute value as predicted. So if it's below, let's say it is below 90% confidence for each value, so I will just set, for example, the value of unknown, or simply create another transformation rule which set, for example, default values, or let's say extracting information from additional data sources, if you like. Okay, that's what more or less was the process of our artificial intelligence based auto classification module. And we had a couple of goals before we start with the implementation of this new capability. And the first goal was to reduce the startup phase. So that means the data preparation, the algorithm training and validation, and so on and so forth, dramatically. And especially to avoid unnecessary delays in the migration project just because you use AI technologies. And another really important goal was to implement an algorithm which is able to classify documents with a high recognition rate with just a minimum of training data. So we are not talking about big data. We are not talking about terabytes or hundreds of millions of records which you need to train the algorithm. We're just talking about a few thousand. And today, Migration Center is able to classify about 75% of all documents with just a really small amount of training data. So, and this, of course, allows us to implement a solution which is really independent from industries. It's really focused on content migration. It's fully integrated in our product, and it classifies and categorizes documents based on pattern recognition machine learning algorithm. And it's really self-learning, minimum of training data, and it's a really fast time to value and cost efficient when it comes when it's used in the migration context. So, in all these characteristics can be used to let's say to increase or to bring additional value to certain of different use cases. So you can integrate that module when you, for example, merge or consolidate repositories, and also in the same project harmonize and enrich the metadata. So it helps you to onboard file shares and setting the meaningful metadata based on the content, on the unstructured content. So it also improves e-discovery because we're extracting information from the content and add really valuable or meaningful information to the content, so which can be used later on for e-discovery reasons. But also we can, for example, enhance the security by, for example, setting confidentiality classes or classifications to documents, and so on and so forth. So there are many use cases which can be improved or which can be enhanced by our auto classification module. So, and just one hint, so we have another additional solution available, and that's a taxonomy implementation or solution for life science. And this solution is typically used in life science, in the life science industry, which has more complex, let's say, needs or complex use cases when it comes to classification of or enrichment of metadata. If you need more information about our taxonomy solution, so just let us know and drop us an email so we can go into more details than after this webinar. Okay, so now it's time to switch to the live demo and see how our auto classification module with Migration Center works. So, but before we start the presentation or the demonstration, so let me just give you an idea what we trying to show you here in this demo. So we will not show you how to extract the data. So we prepared the extraction already. But we will show you how to prepare your training data and reduce the information content. So we will show you how to train and validate the algorithm. And finally, also we want to show you within Migration Center how to use this trained algorithm to classify and assign the new values to your content. So with that, I will hand over to Johannes, and he will show you and give you a sneak peek into our product.
Yeah, thank you, Florian, and hello from my side. My name is Johannes, and I will show you a short demonstration on how to use the auto classification module from Migration Center. So what you see here is the web page for the auto classification module. First, we see some basic information, and on the left side, we see a list of available classifiers. Sure, we can also create one, and that's what we want to do. So first, I will create a classifier, and we will configure it. And in the next step, we will use that classifier to validate and train a model. And we go into some detail about the model, and then we will take that model and we will use it in Migration Center to do some prediction of documents and to predict some metadata. So let's start and let's create a new classifier. So a classifier basically contains two main parts. The first part, for sure, is the algorithm, and the second one is a pipeline. The pipeline is a set of transformation function every document has to go through. So that is the prepare step for the content. So first, we'll give it a name. Let's call it showcase. And then we select the type. So we have the, we can select one of three algorithms. For us, we will go with the SVM algorithm. Every one of those algorithms has their part where they are useful, but for us, the SVM, the support vector machine, is just sufficient. So then we have properties. Every algorithm has their own properties, their own settings, parameters we can set. So for the SVM, we just go with the linear kernel. It really performs good on text content. And we leave the C value as a default. So now comes the pipeline. And the pipeline transformation can be quite complex. So we go with a quite basic configuration. Sure, we want that all our text is transformed to lowercase. And then we want to use the TF-IDF algorithm. That algorithm transforms the words, the tokens, the word in the document to numeric values that we can use in our algorithm. Then we will use the stop words function that will remove every stop word in German and English. Also, we activate the n-grams. We want single n-grams, and we also want to use OCR, the optical character recognition, for German English, and picture density of 300. Yes, we want to use images. Then we activate the PDF parser. That's a parser specifically for PDF files. And we also leave those default values, and these are quite complex. Additional functions, we will not get into them. So now we have configured the algorithm, and we can save it. And then ask us if we want to start a process with the classifier. First, we don't want to do that. And I clicked on no, and now we see our classifier here. So it's our showcase classifier with all the information from our configuration. And then we have four actions we can take. First is we can edit the classifier. So So we can change, for example, the name, showcase classifier. And then we see that here we have a showcase classifier now. Also, we can copy the classifier, and then we have an identical copy of the classifier. Also, we can delete the classifier. The next step would be to start a job or a process. Because that takes some time, I've already prepared that. And to get to the process, I go to the status page. And here I have a summary of all processes that have been started and are running on the server currently. So this is our process. This is a validation. It says it's already finished. And here's the data set size. When I click on it, the detailed information is loaded, and we see the same information again. But the one that's very interesting is this here. This is the precision. And the precision says that 89.8% of the documents in the data set have been predicted correctly in the validation step. And in the next properties, or the next things we can see here is the document results. So we see a list of documents with the actual value, the predicted value, and the confidence value. And we see here that the rank is quite high. That is really good. There's some variance, but all in all, it looks really promising. And also we get a view into the category results. So we can see the attributes. The attribute is just a single attribute. And the category we have it trained on, so concept, offer, invoice. And we see the class size, the correctly predicted documents, and the wrongly predicted documents. So this is the information we get on the web page. But when we go to the Migration Center, we want to set a rule that says if a document has a confidence value that is lower than, I don't know, we will look into it in a minute. Then we don't want to take the value that the classifier has predicted. But we don't know, well, I don't know what confidence value we should take and we should use for that case. So I can go into the PDF report, and the PDF report will tell me what value is a good confidence value. So in the PDF report, there's a lot of information, but this is here in the middle. The table is the one that gives us the information we want. It basically is a table that lists confidence threshold values here in the header, the first row, and then some percentage information. For example, if we select a confidence value of 57%, then 83.9% of all documents in the data set we have used to validate our classifier are so they have a confidence value higher than 75%. 83.9% have a confidence value higher than that. From these 83.9%, there are 80.5% who have been predicted correctly. So they are positive. And there are just 3.4% that have been predicted in the negative, so the wrong. And I think this is a good value. And we will use the 75% for our confidence rule in the Migration Center. So when we go back to the Migration Center, we have a scanner. I configured a scanner that will use some documents that were not in the data set we used to validate and train the model. And before I use this scanner, I have to make sure that the file path to the model is correct. So this is the model we have already trained. Then I have to make sure that the
that the use of the classification module is enabled and that the service location is correct. So this is the location where the server is running from. So they are all correct. And when I look at my documents, these are the documents that have been scanned with the scanner. You see here the predicted attributes and the confidence values. Now I want to set the rule, and for that I go to the migration sets. Here I have a migration set. I have already selected the scanned documents, these 23 documents, and I added my rules, and it says 75%. So if the confidence value is higher than 75, then we want to take the predicted value. If not, we will replace the value with the string unknown. And now I click on Apply Transformation. And the transformation is complete. When I select, when I view the processed documents, we see here that the value, that this document, and this document, they had a confidence value of lower than 75%. Yes, and that's how to use the auto classification module for Migration Center with the Migration Center.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Johannes. So what you have seen so far is really how simple it is to use that auto classification module. So really just to use the the raw data to let's say prepare or let's say manipulate the raw data so that we can use it in our training model. So and then yeah, of course. So you just saw at the moment one attribute, but you can imagine so there could be more than one attribute which our auto classification model can predict. So, but also you can mix it up with existing metadata from the source system and just have a few metadata which are predicted by the AI model and so on and so forth. So there are many combinations possible, but you can imagine, for example, if you have a file share, an unstructured file share, and you have some let's say you have some classified data within your repository, within your application. So you can predict the values based on your classified content for this file system, unstructured file system information. So, and that's what you have seen within the demo. And yeah, now let's switch back to the slide deck because we have a Q&A session and some other information we would like to share with you. So for that, I will hand over back to Mark, and he will give us some more information about what's coming next and what you can find on our website.
Okay, thank you both for the great presentation and the live demo. As Florian just mentioned, before we get to our Q&A session, let me give you a quick reminder on our website. Florian has mentioned our migration product, Migration Center, and our dedicated website is migration-center.com, and on there you can find all the information Florian just gave you in much more detail, like product features, our capabilities, especially some references, and also our past recorded webinars. And most importantly, you can download a trial version, or you can request a trial version, our free evaluation copy, and see for yourself how Migration Center works. And then we are also having some upcoming events. We are attending the Viva R&D Summit in the upcoming week in Barcelona in Spain. And then the following month in July, we are attending the OpenText Enterprise World in Toronto. So if you are part of one of these trade shows, we are looking forward to seeing you at our booth. For the Viva R&D Summit, it's booth G5, and for Enterprise World, we are still waiting for confirmation, and we will let you know once we know for ourselves. And then last but not least, we are having another webinar, which is in the end of June 25th. It's about migrating out of legacy ECM solutions to the cloud life science solution Viva Vault. with Migration Center, of course. Okay, so we are through with the session. Thank you for attending. We hope to see you again soon in one of our upcoming sessions, or maybe at one of the trade shows I just mentioned. And until then, I wish you all a great day. Take care and bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye.